So here we are. I'm ready to get hurt again.
I had it's been an interesting week. I think the theme for me this week, what I titled this episode was building towards the spring. I think with all the news that's going on, obviously I lean very heavily on Siobhan for anything medical, and she's been reviewing the data, and her there you go, up straight strong, baby. Her hospital's been really integral with a lot of these labs and a lot of these clinical trials and phases and things, and she feels very confident. I said, what are the chances that we're going to, officially come out of this? And, when's everybody going to get vaccinated? And she said, late spring, early summer, we should finally start looking towards, coming back towards a normal. So we may have live music next summer. We may have sporting events next summer. We may be able to go to a baseball game. So I kind of internalized that. And how I've been talking to my clients is, I'm going to use the March Madness term for NCAA basketball: survive and advance. Just take the next 3 months. It's going to get worse before it gets better. We're already seeing it around the globe. Survive and advance. As long as you don't go, this is literally what I told the client this week. I said, as long as you don't go to zero in the next 3 months, the summer of 2021 and beyond could be the new roaring 20s, like it was 100 years ago. I think people are going to just absolutely go bananas the moment they can. So that's kind of the feeling I have this week is just survive and advance and build towards that future.
Yeah. I think that's kind of been the motto for, most of this year in a way. Mm-hmm. It's weird. Like, it's all we have, and it's especially in this second wave or fall surge or whatever you want to call it. We saw this in April and May, and you saw what it takes to get through that. Not saying it's going to be easy, not saying it's going to be fun, not saying it's going to be the fourth quarter that you wanted or that you're used to, but we know what reality is. And I think that, particularly in our world where, we work, majorly with, business owners across the country, they're entrepreneurs. That's the entrepreneurial mindset. You have okay, this is reality. This is what I have to work with. Okay. Yep. Let's go. And that's been, I think that's one of the reasons that we've been able to approach this with so much calm and steadiness, is that we're very fortunate where our industry and the tactical things that we do were not really disrupted at all. And B, we got to work with so many different people in so many different markets and in so many different industries that, you just kind of learn, something that somebody's doing over here, if you tweak it, can help somebody else over here. And then just, you get through it and you navigate it. And we've talked about it a handful of times on the show, especially this fall, and I don't want to belittle or, not give credit. Like, it's still very intense out there. There are very heavy things happening, but, if we paid attention, we knew all this was coming. Right. It's easy to kind of get lax in the summer when things are warm and everybody's outside and you have a little bit more flexibility and control. But we knew that we had to expect this. We knew that we had to prepare for it. We knew that, the holidays in 2020 weren't going to look like the holidays in 2019. And, here we are. So you're 100% right. We had to get through the holidays personally and professionally. Mm-hmm. We have to get through, January and February in upstate New York is tough in a good year, so it's not something that we're missing out on a huge chunk of revenue. Mm-hmm. And then, who knows what spring will look like. I much like you, whatever you tell me Siobhan says, that's pretty much gospel as far as I'm concerned, as far as how this stuff works. So like, okay, but I think the big thing is all you can ask for is to know and what reality is. And then it's our job to adjust and figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Are you, as an entrepreneur, do you like when the world downshifts? Like I can already feel it. I'm already getting the triple O messages out of office messages. Personally, I had a very hard time the first half of my career downshifting, and I still do. I still have to talk myself into downshifting. But now, I got a few years on you. You like to remind me. I got a few years on you, but I'm now starting to look forward to like the last 2 weeks in August. I look forward to Thanksgiving. I look forward to Christmas, especially that week in between like Christmas and New Year's where like the entire world is done. And I think this year, I think people are going really hard on the holidays just because that's really all we have at this moment is, we can't see family and friends and et cetera, et cetera. But as an entrepreneur, for me, I like it when the world downshifts because then I feel as though I'm not missing out on something. I'm not doing this. I still struggle on vacation. I still struggle, but I like that. What about you? Do you like it when the world downshifts, or are you just like, let's just keep getting after it?
I've gotten better. Certain people will tell you I still have a long way to go. But I mean, I don't know. This is year 7 going through this for me, like full time. So like, you just kind of learn just to be smart about it.
Yeah.
So like, I am fully aware I can come in and work a full day, the week in between Christmas and New Year's. I could work 12-hour days, 6 days a month if I want. How much am I really going to get done in a client services world where our growth depends on other people deciding they want to work with us? When all of those people are out for a week, there's a certain amount of diminishing returns that come with that, So, I've learned to embrace it. You learn that it's okay to take your foot off the gas pedal. And then I think at the same time, I've also been able to get a little bit smarter about it. Like there's a lot of stuff. I mean, we talked about it either last week before. There's a lot of stuff I want to do here as far as like some renovations and some rearranging, but we intentionally leave that for December because that's stuff that I can do when the world shuts down and take some time and, kind of decompress and not have to worry about like, am I going to get a client call in the middle of all this, or is something going to catch fire and break, which like something will anyway, it always does. But like, you just kind of learn to adjust and the world doesn't care what I want or what my pace or what my schedule is. So I could want to do all of the stuff in the world during these times, but if the rest of the world's shutting down, I'm just sitting here banging my head against this brick wall. So, you learn to adjust. I like it once in a while. I got about 2 days of relaxation in me before I just want to come back here and start doing stuff. So like, I know, like we were talking about it last night about like Thanksgiving, like we'll work, we'll come in Monday next week. We'll lay out our week. We'll probably have full day Monday, full day Tuesday, and then a couple hours to a half day Wednesday. And then, we'll shut it down. Just is what it is, and you learn sometimes it's easier just to float with the current than swim against it.
Do you find yourself thinking big pictures over the holiday about your business and kind of is it easier? Do you think it's easier to think, 35,000 foot view? Is it easier for you to kind of think that way?
No question.
Yeah.
I think just the mere fact that, 80% of your professional life shuts down with people on vacation, it just frees up bandwidth.
Yeah.
Parts of my brain that are normally consumed with day-to-day operations for people, it's, open now. It's where like, it's crazy that we're already talking about it, but this time last year is when the new business model that we introduced at the beginning of this year was born. it was literally like next week. It was the week heading into Thanksgiving, and I just had this huge meltdown. And I'm like, we're not doing a good enough job in these 7 areas.
Yep.
So then that week of Thanksgiving, I came in here and wrote it out on the board, and then here we are now. So it's way easier to think high level, big picture when the rest of the world just stops.
I think for you and I, selfishly, I think you and I can probably leverage these next 5 to 6 weeks to figure out, our next thing that we've been talking about how we're going to leverage this show and turn it into something that's really, really powerful. I think to me, that's where my headspace is going for that sort of biz dev conversation, and I agree with you. It's less about, it's the Gary V, it's the clouds and the dirt, right? Like we're still in the dirt right now. At least I will be mentally. I'll be in the dirt mentally till probably 2-3 o'clock Tuesday afternoon. Then after that, I'm already giving myself permission, going back to last week's show, giving myself permission to be like, all right, down to third gear. Let's make sure we have everything for Thanksgiving. We're actually going to, we were talking about this last night. We're like, hey, what's the weather going to be on Thanksgiving? Because we still want to see, my mom and her dad, and we still want to see people, but with everything that's going on, you just have to be super careful. So I guess it's going to be like 46, 47 degrees on Thanksgiving. I guess it's supposed to rain or whatever, but I'm like, hey, I just busted my ass cleaning the garage for the last 3 months. It looks great. We had a Halloween party in there for Paige and her friends. I got the speakers in there. I got everything. I go, let's put a fire on the driveway. Let's get a couple of mushroom heaters and let's eat in the freaking garage with the garage doors open. We're like, why not? Let's do that. We're going to have, and we'll roll a TV out there. We'll watch the Lions game or whoever's playing this year, Lions and Bears or whoever. And I'm like, just make the best of it. Make the best of the hand that you're dealt, And I think we're going to look back on this as a real, it's going to be cool. I mean, we've celebrated, I try to document this. We've celebrated birthdays outside when it's 27 degrees out. We got a roaring bonfire going, and I've taken pictures. I'm like, we're going to remember this in 5-10 years and look back and be like, man, that was a real shit show, but we really did make the best of it, And I think it's really putting a focus on not just business wise, but personal wise. It really is it's forcing people to take stock with everything that is important in their life. And more importantly, things that are not important in their life. We've had those discussions internally. It's like, is that really what we want to do? Versus, no, I don't want to do that, or I don't need to do that, or I don't need to do that anymore. It's like, it's just a very reflective time. And I know where you and I are, I don't use the word lucky. We're fortunate. We're fortunate to do what we do. We're fortunate to have survived through this. Quite frankly, we're exceptionally fortunate to thrive through all this, you and me. And I just, I'm just battling, but it's like, man, now's the time. I can already feel it like in my brain. Like I'm already starting to kind of elevate the conversation, but I think that's healthy. I really do.
Well, and I think too, and it's conversations that we're having, to various degrees with various people, but like, I think the same thing's true in business for these next, call it, 6 weeks through the end of the year. And everybody's different. Your retail places have the opposite environment where they're going to be crazy, but this is a huge opportunity to kind of catch your breath and be like, okay, like, right, wrong, or indifferent, the first quarter of 2021 is going to look a lot like the last quarter of 2020 in a lot of ways. So what are some things that we can do now that we have some time, now that a lot of the rest of the world is kind of shutting down, to think big picture, to think, how do we set ourselves up for, June and so on? What is our plan? Do we have one? Mm-hmm. Do we need one? Spoiler alert, yes. But, and just to kind of like have those kind of opportunities where, I don't know, I just think that creativity begets creativity in a lot of ways there. And the same way that, we've kind of been there for a while with our mindset and our perspective, I think specifically in our case, and a lot with what you do too, to kind of share that with other people and like, you know, plan to take some like creativity days between now and the end of the year where, you know, you're not going to get passed on the track by a bunch of people like we always talk about, you know, because they're, you know, in pit lane.
Yep.
So I think just looking at it from that perspective and having that opportunity and really using the end of this year to do for our clients what we did for ourselves last year.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of put ourselves like, okay, what are we missing? And then, okay, map it out. How do we fix it? New system, and then go.
Mm-hmm. Do you think people are more willing to have those strategy conversations at the end of a year? Or do you kind of say, listen, this is really what we should be doing? Because, I mean, we talk about it all the time. You have to have those strategy conversations. They're so important. And I think for me, if you're open to having those conversations earlier this year, you're probably in a much better place and selling more stuff right now. You probably are. If you're starting to have those conversations right now, that's why I wanted to say building towards the spring. You know, nobody's going to criticize you for saying, hey, let's build a strategy now. It's just managing those expectations that the realization of those strategies and the tactical parts of those strategies probably won't come to fruition until second quarter, third quarter of next year. Now, that being said, I see that being right now, today, this week, when you're sitting over, talking over turkey this week or whatever, and you're texting your boys about starting a business or a side hustle or something, you know, tripling down on something you're already doing, there's no better time than now. Because when this world does wake back up and the economy really starts to go, I think this thing is just going to I think we're about to see an economy that we've never, ever, ever seen before in all facets. I think beach, you know, pool parties and look out Vegas, Miami, and LA. Like look out.
Yeah.
It's going to be on. But my point is, if you do those strategy discussions today, you know, November 20th, 2020, your July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 2021 are going to be bananas if you do the work. So figure out that plan, figure out with your boys what the 30,000 foot view is, then start getting real tactical for 6 months. Put your nose in the dirt for 6 months, come up for air on July 1st, and you're going to be humming.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so to answer the first part of your question, I think there's a lot of people that this November, December are realizing that they're going to have those kind of discussions based on what this year looks like. But dude, I couldn't agree more. We were just talking like the other day. So like as if like my new owner for my baseball team couldn't be any better at life. Like he also came out and straight up said like our Rumble ponies are staying here. So like AA Mets baseball staying in Binghamton, which like was just about a foregone conclusion. Like we were losing them. Like pretty much said by previous ownership that like going to Brooklyn, see you later. But like we were talking about it, I'm like, if everything, and like I'm being a little bit optimistic here, but you know, by opening day, like May-ish of 2021, you know, you could be primed to have, if you do things right and you use these next 6 months to talk about ideas and new ways of doing things and tailoring your product or your offering to the world that's going to exist on the back end of this, you look at a business or a place like that, you know, same thing with the Syracuse Mets. They could be primed for absolutely monster seasons attendance-wise, just for the mere fact that people can actually go out and do things. And thought of doing stuff like that is what excites me, to be like, okay, what can we do now to set ourselves up for that? You know, and it's going to depend on how you look at these next 6 months. You know, if you're, you know, just going to hold on and just hope you make it and then try to trudge out the same stuff, hard to say, you know. But if you've been taking this time where we haven't had games, we haven't had, you know, promos to worry about, we haven't had this, we haven't had that, and we've had, like we talked about last time, Is it, oh no, we don't have these sources of revenue anymore? Or is it, oh no, all this time just freed up?
Right.
And if you use that time properly and you start building anticipation of when things do come back, spring and summer 2021 is going to be real fun.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think, we talk about the 80-20 rule a lot. We talk about, spend 80% of the time on the stuff that butters your bread, right? We talk about that a lot. But then we talk about those other 20%, as long as you're paying your bills with your 80%, spend 20% of your time. And I'm not talking about, 8 p.m. till 1 a.m. I'm talking about, 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. Like, that's okay to open up YouTube and say, how do I make proper TikTok content? How do I make, TikTok, content for 40-year-olds? How do I do TikTok ads? Things like that. I think for me during the holidays, maybe not during the first, second week of December. I think people do kind of get back in, but during Thanksgiving, when you're kind of just in cruise control, you're in maintenance mode, I would almost skew that ratio 50%. Like spend 50% of your time reinvesting into next year. Like that's one of my goals over the next 6 weeks is to get serious about my content game again. You're kicking my ass right now in that category. I got to triple down on that again, figure out my strategy for this podcast, and then schedule a couple of extra calls with you to figure out what the strategy is to build this out. Because I think this, now that we've put in the work, again, spoiler alert, I just texted a buddy of mine who's starting his own podcast, and he goes, dude, how many have you done? I go, I think we're at like 36 or 37.
36.
He goes, have you missed any? I go, we've missed 2 weeks, my fault, both my fault. We've missed 2 weeks since the fourth week of January. And he goes, that's incredible. He goes, what are you going to do with it? I go, I'll call you later. I'll let you in. But my point is, reinvest some of that time. Take an entire afternoon. Go to YouTube, put in your earbuds when you're on the Stairmaster, and just start thinking about what's next. I think about, I don't know if you saw this last week. Tesla launched a tequila.
Yep.
It's $250 and it sold out in like 17 minutes. I mean, these brands are looking at things that might not make any sense to anybody, but they've built eyeballs and they have brand and they have awareness. So it's like, it's like Gary Vee when he launched his sneaker. It went like that. It's like you can look at, there are no boundaries anyway. What I'm trying to say is there are no boundaries anymore. There's no parameters, there's no boundaries when it comes to opportunities and or revenue extensions. Like if you told me, like one of my local restaurants that's known for their popovers, they make these incredible popovers. We freaking love them. If you told me that they were going to make a kit to teach me how to make my own popovers, and they sold the pans to do it, and they sold the oven mitts to pull the pan out, and they did the towels or whatever, and they sold it as a kit for $99 for the holidays. Done. Like, there's your gift. It's like that kind of outside the box thinking, but you have to give yourself permission to think that way, and you have to give yourself permission to spend time to get to those goals. You have to, and now's the perfect time to do it.
Yeah, and I think it just comes down to, not to get overly KBL on everybody, but it just comes down to attention. If you have people's attention, you can make money off of that attention any way you want to.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's at-home kits, if it's a merch line, if it's, some other vertical integration that you've never thought about yet, unlimited. If you've put in the work and done a good job of building community and building an audience and capturing their attention, 1,010%.
Yep.
But, I think a big thing is, it comes down, fortune favors the bold. Nobody's ever saved their way into prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is one of those times where you really see that. It's, somebody to have the guts as a restaurant owner to say, I'm going to invest a couple $1,000 into, creating these, make your own popover kits and send them home.
Mm-hmm.
Or, even if you do it all pre-order, if you haven't done a good job of building a brand online or some sort of way to really communicate with people other than when they're in your restaurant, you're shit out of luck.
Right.
So that's why, whether it's building up social media platforms or, building new audiences on new platforms or creating an email or SMS channel to communicate with people, how is it going to help you on November 20th? It might not. There might not be anything you need that for on November 20th.
Yep.
But you might have a great idea on February 11th that you can then be like, oh shit, yeah, we can use the, texting database that we built. Or how many people sit there that have between 3 and like 10,000 customer emails that they literally don't do anything with? And I don't mean they don't do a great job and it's not effective. I mean, quite literally, they don't use it.
Yep.
A shocking number. But the people that do leverage that are proactive, they're the ones doing all the stuff that you're talking about right now.
It's give your best secrets away. Everybody's out there playing hungry hippos. Everybody's out there, doing this. And if you're willing to, if that same restaurant flipped on Facebook Live with the chef and said, I'm going to show you how to make our popovers right now. Like, this is what they're known for. I'm going to show you how to make my signature dish right now. You know how many people would watch that, both live and long term? Because here's the punchline. Nobody's going to sit down and make the freaking popovers. They're going to keep calling you because now they have more brand awareness and brand equity because I know how chef makes the popovers now.
Yep.
It's like with me. With me, I'm having great conversations with people, and I'll tell people in my first 30 minutes, here he is. Here's your game plan. Here you go. Here's how you launch a brand right here. I'll give it to them. And then they all call me back and be like, yeah, what's the number? Yeah. You do it. You do it. And you build that baseline of awareness, and you build that baseline. It's that 80-20. I spend 80% of my time nose to the grindstone, emails making sure bottles show up, emails making sure labels show up, emails making sure the liquid shows up. But then at 5 o'clock tonight, I have my haymaker of a phone call. I'm throwing haymakers out there that if any one of those land, like, we're talking next level stuff. But you had to put in the 3 years of work to lay that groundwork of awareness that you're the guy, you're the girl in that industry, in order to have, here it is, the audacity to throw the haymakers. Like, you and I collectively are about to throw a haymaker at this industry. We're about to. And it's going to be branded properly, and it's going to be huge amount of value to people. It's going to be a ton of fun, and we've done the work for a year before we even have the audacity to ask people for money for it. That's what we're about to do. Yep. You can do it. It just takes time. It just takes time.
Yeah, like I tell people, like, the amount of people that I don't know, that I don't see on live, that don't say anything about this, but then I'll run into at the incubator or picking up dinner or getting coffee in the morning, that stop and ask me about this show. Mm-hmm. The first thing that 90% of them ask me, oh, what equipment do you use? Oh, what's your lighting like? Oh, what camera? How's your microphone? And I'm like, dude, none of the above.
Here's my lighting. It's a $77 from Best Buy.
Dude, my computer, my lighting is these 2 12-foot windows in front of me. That's my lighting. There's not, like, the microphone, I don't know. Call Tim Cook, ask him if they put in MacBooks. That one. Everybody gets so fixated on these just shit that doesn't matter. Like, this literally couldn't be any more basic, especially at this point in 2020.
Yeah.
me and you started, we thought we were geniuses. Like, well, let's just do a Zoom and record it. And then now that's just like 70% of everybody's workday.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Like, as long as like the stuff that you're talking, and like the other thing, if like you and I were talking about this every day, then just not doing it.
Right.
It's like the people that are close to me know that like 90% of the shit that I'm talking about on here is about real life things. We just obviously leave the proper nouns out of it because like it's just the right thing to do. But it's not like, I think that's the other thing. I don't think people realize that when you're like, here's what I would do, and then you give a quote unquote hypothetical example, guys, I'm going to let you in on a secret. There's nothing hypothetical about it. This is all shit that just happens every day. Like, he does this. This is real life. When he's like, oh yeah, someone launching this brand that does this, that's happening. And it's happening because of what you did in 2016 and 17 and 18 and 19. When we talk about these hypothetical, hey, what kind of campaign idea would you run for this scenario? And who would you target? Again, that's not hypothetical. That's literally shit that we're doing for real life people that have that need. So like, for me, it all starts there. If you can find a way, and it's so tough because there's just so many snake oil salesmen in the industries that you and I work in, that it all sounds the same, but it's true. Like, if you can literally just find a way to create value for other humans, and then you can find a way to talk about it on here, that's how all of this works. Your lighting, your microphone, worrying about what you're going to do with it after, just go. Just do it, and then we'll figure it out. Like, that's the other thing. We've done 36 of these now. We haven't really started doing anything with it yet. Everyone's like, oh, what are you going to do? Whatever the fuck we want, because it's all done and it's all there. So, like, literally, if we decide November 21st, we're going to start working on it, it's all right here.
What should we do? We should hire an intern to do all these clips for us is what we should do. That's another conversation. But
about it.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. It's the lighting question. It's the microphone question. All of those, what they are, they're just an opportunity to make an excuse is what they are. I don't have the right lighting. I don't have the right painted walls. I don't have the right microphone. I don't have, can we upgrade this? We could, we should eventually for the aspirations that you and I have for this show. But at the same time, I think that's exactly what it is. It's making those excuses. And I think that's why I tell people when they ask me my opinion about what they're doing, I go, flip open your laptop, record yourself, get your best friend that loves gaming like you do, play retro original Sega Genesis games, and just record yourselves playing Sega Genesis games and just talk about what's happening in the world. There's going to be enough people out there that love original Sega Genesis games, that love Mario and Sonic the Hedgehog and all those things, Mortal Kombat, that there are enough people out there that you will build an audience. If somebody told me today, what a world to live in, right? That they told me, I'm going to download a Sega Genesis. They call them emulators. You put them on your computer. You download files. You can plug in you can pair your PlayStation to your computer. I just learned that last week. You can pair your PS4 controller to your Mac via Bluetooth. I just learned that last week. Freaking cool. So if you told me that you were going to be the 43-year-old Mortal Kombat player on YouTube or Twitch, and you wanted to grow to get affiliate partnership on Twitch and make money, I'd be like, I can see that. It doesn't matter if you're potting plants or playing Sega Genesis or knitting or skydiving or anything. Just find the punchline's the same every single time. Find something you're passionate about. If you can't flip the camera around and talk by yourself and you don't feel comfortable doing that, find somebody that's into it like you are, like you and I are into this. This is why we love doing this. This is why it's a lot of times the highlight of our week, because we love talking about this stuff. And we can do it for hours and hours and hours and hours on end. find something that you can talk about for hours and hours and hours and hours and on end that doesn't feel like work. Figure out how to monetize it until it becomes the work. You absolutely can do that. Turn your video game hobby into the work, but only pull the trigger when it makes sense. You know, don't take away that safety net until it makes sense. But what a world we live in 2020, where we're all going to be home for the next probably three more months, where you could absolutely monetize anything you want to monetize. It's a beautiful thing.
If you want to, and if you make yourself good enough. Literally nothing stopping you.
I think my comments are broken on Facebook. I haven't seen anything go through. Either that or just people have already checked out for Thanksgiving.
I don't think you're live on Facebook.
It says I'm live.
It doesn't show up on your thing.
Oh, maybe I screwed it up. Yeah, big surprise, right? Well, we're recording it anyway. That's no big deal. It's all good. See? We screw it up all the time too. And when I say we, I mean me.
Hey, we're a team, Ben. Your failures are my failures, and vice versa.
Yeah, man. I just think it's easy. I know it's easy for us to say because we've done it. We're going to continue to do it. That's just who we are. But if you're looking for mile markers on the highway, you know, even if you want to start on mile 1 right now, if you're looking for a finish line, look at that late spring or early summer. Just look at that time. Because if you do have a product or a service that you're trying to build out, whether it be client services or side hustle or whatever it is, survive in advance. That's my theory is take that 50%. If you can survive on 50% of your time and pay your bills, spend these next 6 weeks reinvesting in what's next. It's easy to be reflective in this time of year, but just look towards the future because people will have money to spend at that point. You know, that people still have it now, but I just think unemployment's going to plummet, you know, then industries are going to come back. Will we be at 100%? Maybe not, but there's no better time than now if you're starting, as long as your expectations are that you're going to fold up and put this in your pocket in the summer and in the fall next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think will we be back to 100%? I don't know. Will we be back to 130%? I don't know. Like, it's just one of those, like, I know you don't know what's going to happen if you do it, but I'm pretty sure I know what's going to happen if you don't. And, you know, in a world where, whether it's your side hustle, whether it's your business, like whether it's your career, you know, like if you're sometimes, and like I understand that every job is different, but like you have 100% control over what your career is going to be 5 years from now. You know, not saying that you have to start your own thing, but like if you are continually like working on yourself and your skills and your offerings and the value that you create, you get to dictate a big portion of your future. So, you know, I think that's another thing that we don't talk about enough is like, this is not exclusive to people that are entrepreneurs or people that want to start a side hustle or any of that. Like, obviously, yeah, it's not hard to connect the dots for those people, but like, you know, if you work in sales, if you're an accountant, if you're a lawyer, if you're an administrative assistant, it doesn't matter. Like, you just, the potential to improve yourself in a way where you could drastically affect your life happiness and income, and I did not put those in that order by mistake. Like, it's astonishing. And I think that that's why I get so worked up when people, like we talked about last week, waste time or complain about their circumstances or, you know, lament their own situation and then don't do anything to change it.
Mhm.
Like if you ain't changing it, you're choosing it.
Yep.
Straight up. And I think that that's one thing that I want to talk about more on here, because I think that, and I understand you and I understandably default to the entrepreneurial mindset. And
Yep.
it's, because that's obviously what we do, but like all this shit literally applies to anybody.
Mhm.
Like to the point, it doesn't even have to be a side hustle. Like you could literally like go from like being like whatever you're doing, you could be the head of that department where you are. You're gonna guess what, man? Like you and I both live in small towns in upstate New York, relatively speaking,
Yep.
where a lot of positions aren't exactly flooded with overqualified candidates. So if you can improve your standing, make yourself more attractive, might be your current employer, might be the next one, might be something that's not even remotely on your radar.
Mhm.
People find you.
Yep. Yep. It'd be amazing to be the thought leader in HR. Like, can you when I say the thought leader in HR, can you think of anybody? I can't.
No.
Actually, I take that back. I think of Claude Silver at VaynerMedia. She's the first person I think of when it comes to the thought leader of HR. And she's the person I think of because she puts out really thoughtful, meaningful content. The other reason I think of her is because Paul Daly, my buddy here in Syracuse, interviewed her on his podcast about being the chief heart officer at VaynerMedia. So she was the first person I thought of. But that's my point of saying that is there's so much white space. There's so much white space. And that's a great point. We should dedicate an entire show to that and bring it into the fold. If you want to be the attorney, if you want to be the personal injury attorney, if you want to be the family law practice, if you want to be whatever, the sports equipment guy, if you want to be, whatever it is, there's so much white space. That's why I purposely tried to stump you when I said that. It's like, who do you think of when you think of that? Who do you think of when you think of, computer networking hardware? Who do you think of when you think of all of those things? There's just so much to do. And that's when you find that's the 80-20 rule. Spend those 36 hours a week, buttering your bread, but those 20 hours a week, open up the camera and start talking. Open up the camera or learn how to edit on iMovie. Learn how to put a 10-minute clip on LinkedIn. Learn how to distribute the content so that every time somebody sees you at something, you're in line getting coffee. Hey, Adam's not just the marketing guy anymore. Adam's also the podcast show guy now. It's like, hey, how'd you learn how to do that? We didn't. We still screw it up. We screw it up every week. But it's about continuing to do it consistently to build towards the goals that you and I have already set. That's what it is.
Yep.
Love it. Love it. All right, we're going to end on that. I like that. I'm glad you brought that up. That is a very good point. That is something we need to continue to talk about. I think I screwed up Facebook. So if you're watching on Facebook and you've commented, I'm not seeing it. So I'm sorry.
I'm not ignoring you, I promise.
Or I'm just ignoring. Like, I was like, man, my mom's not even watching today. What the hell did I do? But if you are watching this live, thank you. Even though I did screw it up. If you're watching this on YouTube later on, we appreciate you. If you're standing in line behind Adam and listening to the show, make sure he pays for your coffee at his local place, because just put it. Here's a pro tip. Adam has a tab at his local coffee shop. So if you just walk behind him, right next door, if you just walk behind him and just drop his name, he's going to pay for your coffee. So if you're listening on YouTube, do that. And then Spotify and iTunes, we're getting real close to that as well. We've got some announcements on that very soon. But as always, we understand that your time is your most valuable asset, and we appreciate that. And that's all that matters. Maybe we can sneak in a show before Thanksgiving. What do you think about that? Maybe like a Wednesday show?
Hell yeah.
All right, let's do that. So we'll say we'll leave our happy Thanksgivings for Wednesday, but we do appreciate you. Peace out.
See you.